You know, we talk about the mainstream media and how they've done us wrong and sold us out. Automatically, what pops into your head? CNN's probably a big one. NBC, ABC, and all that stuff's fair. Don't get me wrong, they're very, very evil, but we don't really talk enough about the leftward lurch of Fox News. And I'm not here to indict everybody at Fox News. I still have friends who are hosts at Fox News, but the organization itself, they are moving left, and they're moving left quickly. And there's a lot behind that. Somebody who knows a little bit about that is joining us now. My friend, host of the Breanna Morello show, Breanna Morello. Breanna, you didn't always have the Breanna Morello show. At one point in time, in fact, when we met, you worked at Fox News. Why aren't you there anymore?
Well, isn't that interesting, Jesse? Yeah, we met actually when I was working at Fox. And then all of a sudden, I was kind of forced out of the company because I refused to get the COVID jab. And so off I went. But it's not really a surprise. I was working there in 2018, 2019, left for a few years to work somewhere else. And then I came back, and the person who was bringing me on board was working for Human Resources, actually had their pronouns in their email signature. And I thought, well, that's kind of strange. It doesn't seem like the place you'd work at if you wanted to include your pronouns. And then before I knew it, wasn't that was strange. That was the new norm. And I was the one who was now the, I guess, strange one for even questioning that stuff. So Fox has completely shifted. Remember when I first came out and started talking about it, people were like, well, Tucker's there. And then as soon as Tucker was axed, people were like, wait, Breanna, something might be going on over at Fox News. And it was true. There was a lot going on over at Fox.
There was a lot going on over there at Fox. And yes, this is kind of one of those things that you and I kind of, we would know about before everyone else did. The Tucker thing was the big tidal wave that woke everybody up. But I've tried to explain to people when friends of mine ask me, hey, what's going on? What's going on? There's new management at the top. The Fox News of today is not the Fox News of 1995 you used to watch, and that Fox News is gone.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really sad. I mean, I when I first started there, it was easy for me to poke around and kind of have just discussions with the top executives over at Fox. They were very welcoming, and they were very excited to talk to someone who was entry level, just beginning off my career. And then it got kind of weird. Those executives, those producers that I once knew weren't there anymore. And the ones that were remaining were very quiet about their political beliefs. And I didn't understand it. Like, for an example, when I got the email in regards to the vaccine issue, I called an executive up and I had a conversation with him on the phone. And I just naturally started crying because I always wanted to work for Fox. And I knew that this was the red line that was going to get me tossed, because I knew in my head I wasn't going to apply by filing an exemption or, just kind of going along with it and being put on unpaid leave. I was going to go out and fight. And so I was really upset that I knew this was my way out. And one of the executives was trying to, well, I agree with you, Breanna. I agree with you, Breanna. But if you want to work here, we all have to do it. He's like, I'm unvaccinated. He's like, and we're just going to deal with it. And those are the people who are still there. They're the ones who just kind of comply and don't really speak up for themselves. And anyone else who does speak up for themselves is gone. I mean, I was friendly with a lot of individuals over at Fox who did leave. They left quietly because they're like, well, we might want a job down the line. We might want to return. And so they thought it was safe just to kind of be quiet about it and leave quietly. I don't think that's the best way to handle it. And it's also worth noting, too, there was a FOIA request that was done by the Blaze a couple of years ago, and it added all of the big outlets that took money from HHS to push the vaccines onto the American people. Now, we don't know the exact dollar amount, but over $100 million was advocated through legislation to go to the media. But ultimately, Fox was on that list of media outlets that took that money to promote the jabs. And I've reported it constantly. I mean, I was there when certain interviews were edited, where if you criticized the vaccines or told people, maybe just hold up before getting it because you don't know the long-term effects of all of this, you actually got that interview either completely, if it was a pre-tape, deleted, or that little clip was cut out. Peter Navarro was the victim of that when we had him on one of the shows that I booked for. And so just time and time again, it was just a reminder that this wasn't the company that I agreed to work for.
Freaking sucks. Okay, well, now you have a show. In fact, people can watch you right here on The First. How did you get a show? Walk us through this whole journey.
Well, it's been quite interesting, right? So I've been going through the process of doing my own digging and doing my own stories. And I just figured, why not just do this every single day? That would be fun, right? So we started this show. It's a 1 hour show every single day. And it's also featured on The First TV on the weekends at 7 p.m. Eastern time on Saturdays. We kick it off. And it's great. It's got all these people who were kind enough that I've known through my Fox years. They're joining me. We have all of these discussions. I even do exclusive stories. I was the reporter who broke that story about Tulsi Gabbard being added to a terror watch list. Heads up, Fox News had that story before I did. They refused to run it. They didn't run it before I did. And I know this because they verified it with my sources. And they just decided not to run it. So that's the reason why people tune into shows like mine, because we don't censor things. I publish everything that I've made aware of that I could prove is real. And the corporate media refuses to do that. So that's the alternative that you have these days. You have the independent world, where we're not afraid to publish the truth. And then you have the corporate media world. That's the reason why you guys want to tune in every single day at 7 p.m. Eastern time.
Is that why people are tuning out? Is that why they've moved on from this mainstream media thing? The numbers are amazing.
Isn't it crazy? I think 1,000%. Right. We're listening to the incoming administration say that they're going to be open to giving podcasters and influencers potentially press credentials to cover the White House. And I think it's because they see the value in all of this. If we just had the corporate media coverage on President Trump, he wouldn't have made his way back into the White House. I think Americans are tuning out the cable world. They know the cable world is garbage. They lie. They continue to lie. I was just listening to ABC News talk about Lakeland Riley and the conviction that just came in for the person who did murder, the illegal alien who did murder Lakeland Riley. And they made it seem political. They actually pinned it against President Donald Trump, saying that President Trump is the reason why there's so much toxic coverage on all this situation, rather than the people who let him in. I think Americans see things like that. They've had enough. They're tapping out. They're turning to independent outlets to tell them the truth. And that's exactly what the rest of us are doing.
Breanna, Elon Musk. I'm very standoffish with really everybody, especially politicians and billionaires and celebrities. I'm a cynic by nature, as you know. And so I don't worship anybody.
Yeah.
But I'm impressed at this point in time. I was very, very cautious, and I'm still cautious. But at this point, how do we not acknowledge that his purchase of Twitter, which he then called X, which is still weird, but his purchase of Twitter and giving people a platform there, it has been huge. He has been great for free speech.
It really has been. I mean, as an independent journalist, I am making great money from X, and I'm very thankful for that. I mean, if it wasn't for Elon Musk, I'd be very limited with the platforms I could broadcast on, because as many of you guys know at home, places like YouTube and other platforms do censor and do ask people who are covering certain topics that are controversial. So the fact that Elon Musk purchased Twitter and is coming out saying, I'm going to allow these independent journalists to do whatever they want to do, cover whatever they want to do, and I'm not stepping in, is really, really important. We are in a fight between good and evil. And if this latest election doesn't highlight that, I don't know what else will for the American people. I mean, we need all of the superheroes we could get right now. Elon Musk has become the right's George Soros, and he's funding things that are really, really important. It's not even that he's political at this point. He's a common sense kind of person. And it has somehow made him a popular figure on the right. And it's strange, but I think it's what's waking up so many people, because Elon Musk, keep in mind, used to actually donate to the ACLU. And he was a big donor for them. Now, all of a sudden, he's woken up to realize the ACLU doesn't actually support what it pretends to support. And he's fighting, and he's putting his own money where his mouth is. The purchase of Twitter was actually massive. And I don't know if we understand that fully yet. But I don't think if Elon Musk didn't purchase Twitter and didn't push for free speech like he did, if President Trump would have gotten his way back into the White House.
How do we handle our responsibility going forward? I'll tell you, I try to be extremely careful about things. I've made a mistake here and there, but not running with things that I can't verify are true. I get the impression we should be careful with the power we've been given now, because just like the mainstream media, people will move on if we abuse it.
Yeah. Well, I constantly will not publish a story if I cannot prove it to be factually true. There's a lot of defamation lawsuits that you have to be cautious of, but you also don't want to discredit yourself. As independent journalists, your income usually comes directly from your audience. And so you don't want to abuse that trust because once you do, they could just pull all their money and then you'd have nothing. You wouldn't have a job. And I think that's really important for folks to understand. So I'm constantly calling people, asking the uncomfortable questions and vetting things. I get tips all the time. A lot of those tips, I would say about probably 80% of them don't really hold much in the way of truth, or you can't verify them, so you can't run them. And you can't be afraid to do that. There's a lot of ways to verify tips, and I've learned that throughout my career as a journalist. But for those of you at home, there's a lot of people also, and I don't support all independent journalists because some of them aren't actual journalists. They don't vet things. They'll hear something and then they'll publish it online as if it's factually true. I don't do that because I fear being sued for defamation. That's a massive, massive legal fight to take up. And so you have to be cautious. So I think the rest of us should be okay with not publishing everything that we hear or see at first because you don't want to be on the wrong side of things. But making phone calls, reaching out to both parties for comment is the best way to avoid any of that because once you give both sides the opportunity to tell you if it's true or false, you could kind of make your own way from that. And that's what I've always done. So I think that's really, really important for folks to understand. Follow journalists who actually reach out for comment.
I've got a tip for you and everybody else, although you don't have to reach out for comment. The pepperoni puffs at Little Caesars are unbelievable. It's one of the best kept secrets in the country right now, and I highly, highly recommend you try them today. Today, if you can, Breanna.
Well, RFK might shut it down soon. I'm pretty sure Little Caesars isn't probably the best for us. And so everyone should go out there and grab them now. I'm a big fan of their stuffed crust pizza. There's something in there. It might be crack, but there's something in it.
Gosh, it's so freaking good. Now I'm starving. I'm going to let you go. I need to go eat. Breanna Morello, host of the Breanna Morello Show. Thank you. I would thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.